Welcome to the Wheel of Question, brought to you by Jazzability Productions. Let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome to my podcast. My name is Jazz, and the Wheel of Question today is, what is accessibility and how does it impact the disabled community? Accessibility is the practice of designing products, devices, services, or environments to be usable by people with disabilities. It's all about making sure that everyone, regardless of their abilities, can access and use technology and the internet with ease, and removing barriers and making things easier to use for people with disabilities. Accessibility is important because people with disabilities make up a significant portion of the population. According to the World Health Organization, around 16-17% of the world population has some form of disability. This means that if products, services, and environments are not accessible, a larger portion of the population is excluded and unable to fully participate in society. There are many different types of disabilities, and each type of disability may require different types of accommodations or adaptations. For example, people with visual impairment may require screen readers or braille displays to access digital content, while people with mobility impairment may require ramps or elevators to access physical spaces. It is important to consider the needs of all types of disabilities in order to create a truly accessible technology and environment. Accessibility is not just a matter of meeting legal requirements or ticking a box. It is about ensuring that everyone, regardless of ability, has the same opportunities and can participate fully in society. By making technology and environments more accessible, we can create a more inclusive and equitable world for all. Accessibility is an issue that affects many people, especially those with disabilities. The term accessibility refers to the degree to which a product, service, or an environment is accessible to people with disabilities. Unfortunately, many people with disabilities continue to face barriers to accessing the technology and services they need to participate fully in society. In this podcast, we will examine the challenges faced by people with disabilities and the steps that can be taken to make technology and real-life situations more accessible. People with disabilities face numerous accessibility challenges, such as accessing information, using public transportation, or finding employment. One of the major challenges is the lack of accessibility in technology, where websites and digital tools are not designed with accessibility in mind. This can make it difficult for people with disability to use them, such as websites that rely heavily and images are not designed with proper contrast or are not accessible to screen readers or keyboard navigation. Inaccessible home automated systems can also pose challenges. In real-life situations, public transportation and buildings are often inaccessible to people with disabilities, with many lacking wheelchair access or ramps or accessible toilets or bathrooms, or in other parts of the world they're called restrooms. There have been positive developments in improving accessibility for people with disabilities. Many companies are now taking steps to make their website and application more accessible, such as adding alt text to images, proper contrast and color schemes, and designing websites with proper keyboard navigation. Home automation systems are also being designed with accessibility in mind. Public transportation systems and buildings are now more accessible with features such as wheelchair ramps and accessible toilets or bathrooms, once again, restrooms in other parts of the world. Public transportation systems and buildings are now more accessible with features such as wheelchair ramps and accessible toilets or bathrooms, or as some would call it, restrooms. Assistive technologies have also been developed, such as screen readers, braille displays, and speech recognition software to help people with disabilities access technology and participate fully in society. Now I will try and break down the 3 accessibility subjects that I feel is very important. And the first one is, what is accessibility in web design? Accessibility is about making sure that everyone can access and use a website, regardless of their abilities. This includes people with disabilities, but it also includes people who may be using different devices, different browsers, or different internet speeds. So why is accessibility so important? Well, for starters, it's a legal requirement in many countries, including the United States and the European Union. But beyond the legal requirement, creating an accessible website is simply the right thing to do. We should strive to make the web as inclusive and welcoming as possible. Now let's talk about some of the challenges of creating accessible websites. One of the biggest challenges is that accessibility is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Different disabilities require different accommodations, and what works for one person may not work for another. For example, someone who is blind may use a screen reader to access a website. This means that the website needs to have appropriate alternative text for images and provide descriptive headings and labels for all content. On the other hand, someone who has a mobility impairment may use a keyboard or other assistive technology to navigate the website. This means that the website needs to be accessible for navigating using only a keyboard with clear and easy to use navigation menus. Another challenge is that accessibility can be a technical and a complex topic. It requires knowledge of coding, web standards, and assistive technologies. This can be quite daunting for some web designers and developers who may not have the expertise or experience in accessibility. But don't let those challenges deter you from creating an accessible website. With the right mindset, tools, and resources, anyone can make their website accessible to everyone. And here are some tips to get you started. First, use clear and descriptive language throughout your website. This will help people with cognitive or learning disabilities to understand your content. Second, use color contrast appropriately. Make sure that the text and background have enough contrast to be easily readable. Third, use descriptive headings and labels for all content. This will help people who use screen readers to navigate your website. And finally, test your website with assistive technologies to make sure it is truly accessible. There are many free tools available that can help you do this, such as the Wave Web Accessibility Evaluation Tool. Wave Web Accessibility Evaluation Tool is a free online tool that is designed to help web developers and content creators evaluate the accessibility of their web content. The tool is developed by WebAIM or WebAIM, a non-profit organization that provides web accessibility training and resources. The Wave tool works by analyzing a web page and generating a report that highlights accessibility issues, such as missing alternative text for images, incorrect use of headings, and missing some labels. The tool also provides suggestions for how to fix these issues and improve the overall accessibility of the web page. One of the unique features of the Wave tool is its ability to evaluate web pages for compliance with several accessibility guidelines and standards, including WCAG 2.1, Section 508, and the U.S. Access Board Electronic and Information Technology Accessibility Standards. The Wave tool is easy to use and can be accessed through a web browser. Users simply enter the URL of the web page they want to evaluate, and the tool does the rest. The report generated by the tool can be viewed online or downloaded as an HTML or PDF file. Overall, the Wave Web Accessibility Evaluation Tool is a valuable resource for anyone who wants to ensure that their web content is accessible to all users, including those with disabilities. By identifying and addressing accessibility issues, web developers and content creators can make their web content more inclusive and reach a wider audience. The Wave Web Accessibility Evaluation Tool can be found at https://wave.webaim.org. You can also Google search the Wave Web Accessibility Evaluation Tool, and then you will see a list of other websites that may help you. Now let's talk about a common misconception about accessibility. Some designers may worry that making their website accessible will make them look boring or unattractive. But the truth is that accessibility and design can go hand in hand. With the right approach, accessibility can actually enhance the user's experience and make the website more engaging and memorable. For example, using appropriate color contrast and clear typography can make your website more readable and visually appealing. Providing alternative text or images can make your website more informative and engaging. And creating a clear and easy-to-use navigation system can make your website more user-friendly and intuitive. Let's move on and talk about why accessibility is important in the world of technology and beyond just websites. Technology has made many aspects of our lives easier and more efficient. But for people with disabilities, it can be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, technology has the potential to level the playing field and create new opportunities for people with disabilities. On the other hand, many technologies are not designed with accessibility in mind, making them inaccessible or difficult to use for people with disabilities. One area where accessibility is particularly important is in the development of assistive technologies. Assistive technologies are devices or software that help people with disability perform tasks that they might not otherwise be able to do. For example, a screen reader can help someone with visual impairment read and interact with content on a computer, while a braille display can provide tactile feedback for someone who is blind. However, the development of assistive technologies can be challenging. There are many different types of disabilities, and each one requires a unique solution. For example, a hearing aid might be an effective solution for someone with hearing impairment, but it would be useless for someone with visual impairment. Developing effective assistive technology requires a deep understanding of the needs and limitations of each disability, as well as a commitment to ongoing research and development. Another challenge of creating accessible technology is the sheer pace of technological innovation. New technologies are being developed all the time, and keeping up with the latest trends and tools can be overwhelming even for experienced developers. When accessibility is not a priority, new technologies can quickly become barriers for people with disabilities. Even when accessibility is a priority, it can be difficult to ensure that technology is truly accessible to all. Testing for accessibility is a complex process that requires specialized knowledge and tools. Many developers lack the resources or expertise to properly test their product for accessibility, which can lead to unintended barriers for people with disabilities. Despite these challenges, there are many reasons why accessibility is important in the world of technology. For one, it is simply the right thing to do. Everyone deserves equal access to technology and the opportunity it provides. In addition, creating accessible technology can open up new markets and create new opportunities for innovation. By considering the needs of people with disabilities in their design process, developers can create products that are more user-friendly and appealing to a broader range of users. And finally, I want to talk about accessibility in the real world, real-life environment, and lack of accessibility in real-life situations, and what progress has been made. One of the most common areas where accessibility is lacking is in public transportation. Many cities and towns have public transportation systems that are simply not designed to be accessible for people with disabilities. For example, buses and trains may not have wheelchair ramps or other accommodations for people with mobility impairment. This means that people who use wheelchairs or other mobility devices may be unable to use public transportation to get around, which can limit their ability to work, socialize, and engage in other activities outside the home. In addition to physical accessibility, public transportation can also be challenging for people with sensory disabilities. For example, announcements on buses and trains may not be audible to people who are deaf or hard of hearing. This can make it difficult or impossible for them to know when their stop is approaching or to understand important safety announcements. Another area where accessibility is lacking is in the design of buildings and public spaces. Many buildings do not have wheelchair ramps or other accommodations for people with mobility impairment. Similarly, public spaces may not have accessible toilets or, as some might call it, restrooms, or other accommodations that make them usable for people with disabilities. This can limit their ability to participate fully in society, whether it is attending events or simply going out for a walk in the neighborhood. It is not just physical accessibility that is lacking either. People with sensory disability may struggle to navigate public spaces that are poorly designed. For example, a person with visual impairment may struggle to find their way around a large, confusing building without adequate signage. Similarly, a person who is deaf or hard of hearing may struggle to follow along with events or activities that rely heavily on audio cues. So, how far have we come in terms of accessibility? Well, let's take a look at some of the progress that has been made in recent years. One area where significant progress has been made is in public transportation. Many cities around the world have taken steps to make their public transportation systems more accessible. This includes providing wheelchair ramps, accessible seats, and audible announcements on buses and trains. Some cities have even gone so far as to introduce a fully accessible subway system. Another area where progress has been made is in building accessibility. In many countries, new buildings are now required by law to meet accessibility standards. This means that they must have wheelchair ramps, accessible toilets or restrooms, and other features that make them accessible to people with disabilities. Even older buildings are now being retrofitted with accessibility features such as elevators and wheelchair ramps to make them more accessible. In addition, technology has played a significant role in improving accessibility in real-life situations. For example, there are now many apps and devices that can help people with disabilities to navigate public spaces. These include apps that provide real-time information on accessible routes and devices that can help people with visual impairment to navigate their surroundings. Furthermore, assistive technologies have improved significantly in recent years. Devices like hearing aids and cochlear implants have become smaller and more discreet, while speech-to-text software has become more accurate and reliable. These technologies help people with disabilities to communicate with others, access information, and participate fully in society. But as always, despite the progress that has been made, there is still a long way to go. Many buildings and public spaces still lack accessibility features, and public transportation can still be a challenge for people with disabilities. Additionally, some countries do not have laws in place to ensure that buildings are accessible, which can make it difficult for people with disabilities to access public spaces and participate fully in society. While it's great to see the progress that has been made, it's important to keep pushing for further change. This includes advocating for accessibility laws, raising awareness about the importance of accessibility and encouraging businesses and organizations to prioritize accessibility in their operations. Let me explain in a little more detail of some of the steps that can be taken to improve accessibility. One of the first steps in improving accessibility, which I have already briefly mentioned, but it is very important and worth mentioning again, and that is increasing awareness of accessibility issues. Many people are simply not aware of the challenges faced by people with disabilities, and this can lead to a lack of action. By increasing awareness, people can be more proactive in creating accessible technologies and environments. Also, people with disabilities should be involved in the design process for technology and environment. They can provide valuable insight and feedback on what works and what doesn't work for them. This can help to ensure that products and environments are truly accessible and meet the needs of people with disabilities. There are many standards and guidelines available for accessibility, such as the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines and the Americans with Disability Act. By following these standards and guidelines, companies and organizations can ensure that their products and environments are accessible to people with disabilities. Also, accessibility testing should be conducted to ensure that products and environments are truly accessible. This can involve testing with assistive technologies and people with disabilities. By conducting accessibility testing, companies and organizations can identify and address accessibility issues before they become a problem. Another thing they can do is to provide training on accessibility, which can help to ensure that designers, developers, and other stakeholders are aware of accessibility issues and how to address them. This can include training on standards and guidelines for accessibility, as well as training on how to use assistive technology. Another thing is to make sure that any accessibility project should be a priority from the very beginning. This means considering accessibility issues during the planning and design phases, and ensuring that accessibility is built into the product or environment from the very beginning. And collaboration is key to improving accessibility. Companies and organizations should collaborate with people with disabilities, accessibility experts, and other stakeholders to ensure that products and environments are truly accessible. And now, it's time for a bit of humor to lighten the mood. I once heard a joke about accessibility that goes like this. Why did the wheelchair get a ticket? Because it was parked in a disabled car parking spot. Yeah, okay, that wasn't that funny, but I'll give you a couple more. How did the wheelchair user feel when they finally found the right accessible entrance? Ah, such a relief. Why did the disabled person start spinning in circles? Because they were trying to find the accessible entrance. Yeah, okay, the jokes weren't that funny, but I have to give it a try, right? Anyway, but it's important to find humour in even the most serious of topics. All joking aside, accessibility is not something to be taken lightly. It is crucial for ensuring that everyone has equal access to public spaces, information, and technology. Let's continue to push the progress in accessibility and make the world a more inclusive and accessible place for everyone. That's all for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show and were able to take away something valuable. I want to remind you to follow me on our social media network to stay connected. On Facebook, you can find me at The Real Question. On Twitter, you can find me at Real Question. On Instagram, you can find me at The Real Question. You can also email me at therealquestion@gmail.com. Keep engaged with me online, as I would love to hear from you. And who knows, I may even reply. Your follows, likes and shares make all the difference and really help to build up this podcast and help it grow. So please spread the word. I would really appreciate it. Also, please subscribe to my podcast so that you'll be notified when a new episode is online to listen to and enjoy. Also, check back soon for more episodes. Until then, stay safe and thanks again for listening.